Dr. Jenny Gray, CEO of Zoos Victoria, thank you so much for having me today here to chat to you on this crisp winter's morning.
It's such a pleasure, and thank you for joining us in this exciting week where we've just reopened to the general public.
And we've come out of now the first phase, for want of a better word, of the pandemic COVID-19 crisis. I'm fascinated by what you and the team have done here to really step up the game as far as creating an experience outside the walls of Melbourne Zoo. Talk us a little bit through around how live streaming has become such a big part of what you do and how you actually achieve that.
So Chris, you can see you can't talk with a camera without the lions wanting to get into the action. Yeah, really an interesting time for us. We went from fully open to the public right ahead of Easter, ready to go with our dinosaur installation that was literally a week away, and COVID hit. And so very quickly closed down our whole operation to the public. We did not close because we still have obligations to the animals in our care. And so, unlike many businesses, it was just not possible to lock the door and walk away. We had to stay on property and we had to stay operating. And that's brought a whole lot of different challenges we can chat about. But the biggest one was, how do we continue to engage with the families that come to the zoo? How do we keep our members engaged so that they don't all want their membership money back? And how do we keep engaging with people that are sitting at home feeling really lost and a little bit depressed and a little bit anxious? And so very quickly we switched into live streaming, and that's been one of the things we've done through this time, but there's been lots of others.
One of the other things, Doctor, that I'm very interested in is the shift from physical foot traffic that you have coming through your front door here every year to online. How has that been a big challenge for you, and what have you done numbers-wise? What are we looking at viewers-wise?
So in a normal year, we're seeing about 2.5 to 2.7 million visitors coming through our gates, spread across your busiest times being January and Easter around April. The shift across, we went to online streaming, looking at our most popular exhibits. We had a wonderful draw card, which is snow leopard cubs.
Yep.
If you haven't seen snow leopard cubs, oh my goodness, they must be one of the cutest animals on the planet. And so using the medium of online streaming and the keeper cam, so we have cameras set up around the zoo where keepers are able to watch animals and their behaviors. We literally just started streaming that, and people started logging in. And at this point, over the 2 months, we've seen 2.5 million people live streaming. So actually in the 2 months, we've reached the same kind of audience that we would get through a full year of physical visitors coming in.
And from a technology perspective, did you do that in-house, the live streaming? I mean, do you have an internal IT and technology team, or did you suddenly have to go and find partnerships outside?
We have an internal IT team, but probably about 3-4 years ago, we consolidated marketing, communications, and IT into one team. And over the last couple of years, this has become a very integrated team. So it's not like marketing has to go and engage with the IT team. We've been working very closely with them. We've done a lot more video work. We've been doing a lot more sharing of our own content. So we've become, in effect, very much a content provider. We've hired professional journalists who work on our staff to curate that content, to present it in ways that actually the big media houses don't have to come out here and film. We can package it up and we can share it with them. And so the team were able to switch over, and they did it quite quickly. I'm not sure if we used external providers. We probably did, to do some of the really hardcore tech pieces. We don't have all those deep skills. We have very generalist IT teams. But we were pretty much ready. It happened literally in a couple of days. And the first I heard of it was a call saying we're ready to start live streaming. Wow. And we were live streaming. The fact that we have invested also in high quality cameras in all of our animal areas, that's been an evolving journey we've been on, and it helps the keepers, it helps us do research. And suddenly we have this wealth of footage that we were able to stream.
One of the things that I've certainly recognised in chatting with you even before we were on camera here today, Doctor, is that it has this feeling as though you have transitioned into almost becoming a technology company. Would you say that's a fair statement for you as Melbourne Zoo?
I'm going to challenge that and say probably not. I see us as content providers, and technology is just one of the channels that we're able to use. The other channel is here. It's the physical presence, it's people coming into the zoos. And so we very much see ourselves as a content provider to a number of different streams. We still send out a paper-based magazine. Now, that sounds really old world, but you know, the excitement of little kids when something comes in the mail that's got their name on it. In fact, they get a birthday card from us, really old school. Now, it would be much more cost effective to just send them an email, but when you're 3, an email's nothing exciting. An envelope with your name on it, that's pretty exciting. And they send us back letters that they've handwritten and drawings they've hand done. And I love that. It really is a fantastic old touch point that we keep going. Some of that sense of nostalgia is really important about the zoo. And so we're on this cusp of how do we do live streaming of snow leopards so your kid can sit mesmerized in front of a screen and watch the snow leopards and yet also receive a birthday card in the mail. And we try to cross that entire divide.
One of the other things, Doctor, is you are very much an education provider here, and I think that's become even more so over the last few weeks with COVID-19 and this pandemic. How has that grown, become bigger, and what are some of the challenges and areas that you've really had to focus in on with that?
Providing high quality education that's curriculum appropriate and based on really good inputs, that took us a little longer. We could get the cameras up quick, but our education teams that are usually seeing classes coming through the zoo and teaching on property, they've taken a little bit longer, but we now are providing online content, online education lessons. We're running every day about 32 classroom sessions, having up to 200 or 300 kids taking part in those sessions. We have entire classes logging in and their teacher facilitating that interaction with us. We do virtual tours, we have speaking to experts. So we've really been able to ramp up the content of what we provide for teachers. We also do teacher professional development. And so what we've been able to do is reach close on 20,000 children through our classroom sessions. And those kids aren't just here in Melbourne. We're getting kids logging in from Singapore, Japan, all over Australia. And suddenly this opens up a zoo visit for wherever you are. And so that's actually extending our reach in really interesting ways on our education programs. And that's one of the pieces that won't change. Well, I don't think the online streaming will either, but it's a very different experience. I think online streaming has just told everyone how much you miss coming here in real person. And that's answered a question we always had was, will we be replaced by cameras? The answer is the camera doesn't put, the sun on your back and the animals all around you. But for the education classes, we know this is going to be for quite a while before classes are coming back in numbers. So that's one of the parts that I think we will definitely keep investing in and definitely keep servicing a market.
The other thing, Jenny, I'd love to get some insight from you on is a big topic for 2020 and 2021 is mental health. You as the CEO of Zoos Victoria look after not only here, Melbourne Zoo, you've got Hillsville Sanctuary, you've got the Werribee Open Range as well, a huge number of human beings, staff that you're responsible for. How do you see now having come out of what I call phase 1 of COVID-19 and the implications that we've got around mental health and how we look after the people within our organisations? How's that, A, going to be a really big topic for you going ahead, and B, what are you going to be doing to be able to really dive deep into that?
Mental health is definitely a big topic for us, not only for our staff, for our animals, but also for our visitors. And so we're thinking quite deeply about this. Through this pandemic period where we were in lockdown, we had about a third to a half of our staff still working through the period. For them, it was really important to make sure they were well looked after in terms of their own personal health and safety, that they weren't taking extra risk home to their families, which was really a big concern. We separated our staff into 2 teams because we could not afford to lose an entire team to the virus. So, you can imagine in many roles, if your team went down, you could get in other people to help out. But if you're a lion keeper, I can't go get other lion keepers. And so we had to split up teams to build resilience into the way we work. And so we operated an A and a B shift. They never saw each other. So one of the things that's been great is that we're starting to see people from the different shift. But there's literally people on my staff I haven't seen for 2 months.
Yeah.
We relied very heavily on our intranet. And so in the technology space, we have we use Workplace by Facebook as our intranet. It has been a godsend. What I've been able to do is I've talked to my staff every day for the last, I don't know how long it's been now, 2 months. During people's lunchtime, I do a live chat, and it started out just me trying to share what was happening, the decisions being made by the board, the decisions being made by government. Pretty quickly that sort of stabilized, and I was boring myself. So I then started interviewing people. And over the course of these 2 months, I've spoken to people right across the organization. We've spoken to people across the world in this little half-hour bursts. And we're getting, on average, probably at least half the staff watching each of those little videos, if not live, overnight when they get a bit of time. Some of them have been very funny. There's one where a shark bites me. That's very funny. Everyone thought that was very funny. It was a small shark. We've just this week been doing Reconciliation Week, and we've had traditional owners come on and talk about their stories, and it's been incredibly moving to hear what people have gone through. And we've talked, as I say, to our conservation partners in Africa, Rhino Fund Uganda, where we think we're doing it hard, and then you listen to someone else's story and you realize if you're a small conservation organization in Africa that relied 100% on donations from tourists, you're in real trouble. They don't know how they're going to pay salaries. And my amazing staff ran a fundraiser in the middle of this virus where we raised $7,000 for Rhino Fund Uganda. And I had the incredible privilege of calling Angie and telling her that we were going to send them $7,000. At a point, she thought she was going outside to retrench half her staff. And she burst into tears, and I was crying, and then everyone on the live stream was crying. But just that, when you think of mental health, there's things that are good for our mental health. Helping other people, being generous, being kind, actually giving money to someone else suddenly makes you feel less destitute and less hard done by. And so we've been focusing on those kind of actions through the course of these two months. The other thing we've done is we've eaten a ton of chocolate, because remember, it was Easter, and somebody very foolishly put an Easter egg on every person's desk, not realizing that only 3 of us were coming in every day. So the 3 of us may have eaten everybody else's Easter chocolate. So that was a good one. We also have learned that Zoos Victoria people love to dance. And so people on property, people off property, we have a dance-off going on at the moment. The entry this week was a group of zombie zookeepers to Thriller. It's awesome. We're really bad dancers, but we love it. And so it's been great to see a bit of fun come in. We felt incredibly privileged to be at work when other people haven't been able to do that. And people have worked hard. They've redone a lot of the property, they've looked after the animals, but they've really had fun doing it. Now, I haven't answered your question about visitors, so let me just go there and you'll cut this all down to size. In terms of visitors, we've just finished our 2030 plan. And where we see ourselves being positioned over the next decade is in a space of wellness and well-being. There are scientific studies now showing that connections with nature change your stress levels. 20 minutes in a place like this reduces your stress, and as a father of young children, you know how good this is for the soul. To just come here with a child and wander around for a bit, to talk about how magnificent the planet is, to talk about amazing animals, this is good for us. And so we see ourselves becoming more and more centers of well-being, where people come to reduce their stress, to get out of the craziness of the world. We have a project running down at Werribee with Dental Health Victoria, where whenever we have a day for our members, they bring in some dental chairs, and they're giving our members' children their first dental checks ever. And parents are saying, let's go to the member party at the zoo and get your teeth checked. And the kid doesn't even know. They end up out down at the hippo enclosure. They see a presentation where the hippos open their mouths and everyone oohs and ahs. And next thing they're on a chair with their mouths open, getting their teeth checked. That's the kind of role we want to see growing, where we provide this additional health, well-being, and a service to our community.
Jenny, you've been in your position now here as CEO of Zoos Victoria for about 12-ish years, I think. As a leader, that you've seen so many different things happen throughout your career, including the last 12 years here. This is, for want of a better word, an unprecedented situation that we're in. if you were talking to a room full of other leaders of organizations around how to deal with chaos and a situation like we've been in, what are the top three tips, tricks and pieces of advice that you'd give, having now been through that, what I call phase one that we've been through?
My experience through this process, and you've asked for three things, I think the first one is communication. Find ways. You can't over communicate, and I do keep testing. As I said earlier, I communicate with my staff every day. It's insane, but I've loved it, and I keep testing. Is it too much? Anyone that's too much for just switches off, but there's people who really need it. And when we didn't know the answers, I was able to go online and be trustworthy and say, I don't know the answer, but this is what I'm doing. And as soon as I know, I'll tell you. So I think communicate is absolutely important. Second is to be agile and have a can-do attitude. We just don't know. There were so many things that were changing on a weekly basis. Every time I thought, oh, we'll have 2 weeks notice, we never did. We would literally have days notice in terms of announcements. So to be agile, to be ready to go, but to develop plans that build in that agility. We've done so much planning work that when someone says, are you ready to go? We go, yep, here's plan A, B, and C. Which one do you want? And that helped us get open earlier because we had plans ready done. And then I guess the last thing is expect it. You know, we just don't know what's coming. We are messing with the climate. This disease was wholly predictable. You're a futurist, Chris. You would start watching these big trends. We knew this was coming, but we keep hoping it's not. Why we didn't all get ready when China was already experiencing the virus, that's when we should have had our plans ready to go. Bushfires. We know we're going to have bushfires, and yet we were underprepared for this bushfire again. We didn't have enough vets trained. We didn't have enough facilities ready to accept koalas. Next year we will, and the year after, and the year after. And so I think as leaders in this day and age, we really should be expecting these situations. And it doesn't mean you have to have a plan for everything, but you must have the big vision in place. You must have trained your leaders to be flexible. You must have trained your staff to be able to cope and to be resilient. So I think expecting the unexpected, that's terrible, but I do. There's a quote from some of the people working out in the field with animals that there is no end of viruses waiting to jump from species into humans. We're a great vector, and the way we live makes us perfect for any virus. And so we should be expecting these things. They will happen, they have happened in the past, they will happen again.
I want to walk away with one final thought, Jenny, from you. If there's one thing that you think that we've all learnt from COVID-19 and this pandemic, and talking about our environment and the appreciation for our environment, what do you hope that we walk away from this when we eventually come out on the other side of this pandemic? What do you see the world suddenly doing?
If I leave you with one thought, and the one thing I've learned through this is that we as people are kind and compassionate and nice. And it's easy to lose sight of that when you watch the evening news, because the news is trading in fear and keeping us in lockdown and keeping us fearful. And that's not what we are. And don't buy into that. It's part of a narrative to keep people doing what we need people to do. The reality is I saw people helping their neighbors. We had our neighbors to dinner. We brought them their shopping. We are kind, compassionate creatures, and we're very social. We struggled in this time because we missed that socialness, but we know we can be better. And I think what we must come out of this is it took a crisis like this to shut us down for 2 months. And in that 2 months, we've seen the sky get clearer. We've learned that we can not have to travel the world, that I actually did interviews for an international position. I sat on an international recruitment committee, and we interviewed people in 5 different countries, and we found a candidate. We don't have to get into planes and fly around the world for meetings. We don't have to travel. There's lots of things we don't have to do. But we do have to be kind and compassionate, not just to each other, to the planet and to the animals on it, if we want to keep living on this planet with so many people.
Dr. Jenny Gray, I've learnt about zombie dances from you today, your passion for eating chocolate secretly in the office, but most of all, I have unsurprisingly got a genuine insight here into your passion for the environment, your people, and by far not the least, the animals around here. Thank you so much for your time and your insights today. I look forward to meeting the rest of your team